Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Uncharted. We're just gonna keep continuing our way through this jungle. Like I said, this is, the name of the game is we pretty much go from area to area and clear out waves of bad guys with, cutscenes here and there. So, alright, let's just continue our conversations.
Alright. So there was actually something I did want to add from the end of our last conversation. We hate punching the air, Nathan. Fuck you, air!
Oh God!
Something that I wanted to add from our last conversation before about like the different body types and what we see in games and such, or not just games in general. I know something that people like to argue about a lot is like this is super dumb. Like I've seen people complain, about like let's look at some more cartoony designs and how they would make sense. Like let's look at Sonic for a little bit. Remember Sonic's, we all know Sonic's old design, he has a round stomach, aside from that, pretty lanky. And then, as he became more modernized, he became a lot thinner. Now, to me, this makes sense. He runs all the time. He's very athletic. It would only make sense that he'd be very thin. Now that also said, though, it is a cartoon. So because of that, and this also applies to other characters like Mario, where, we all know Mario. He has some pretty stocky legs and arms. Because he jumps and punches a lot. But he's also very robust. Like he eats a lot of that pasta. He loves his pasta. But that said, I also look at certain other characters where, because the idea is that. We brought up before how, a physical, certain fatigues, or physiques, I'm using the complete wrong here, physical body states, they would make sense depending on the context of where you are. Look at Full Metal Alchemist. Look between the characters Armstrong and Sid Curtis. Both are very muscular men, but they're muscular. Actually, real quickly, hold on, I want to see this. If that map is still in one piece.
Oh, thank God.
How lucky. And then it blows away. Aw. That'd be funny.
No.
They'll sing us out. This is Nolan North we're talking about here. I was expecting it to pull off a Deadpool.
You know what?
Holds up the map like.
I know this is the plane that Nathan was just in that crashed, but low key, I was kind of hoping for there to be like a rotting dead body in the passenger seat. And then Nathan's just like, "Where the fuck did you come from?"
It's like, man, how do I keep running into these dead corpses in every plane I come across?
Didn't I just crash this plane? What the hell?
Am I a dead corpse? Wait.
But no, anyway, so like we looking at Armstrong and Sid. So Armstrong, he is like hugely muscular. Like he is like the kind of muscular that you would see in like magazines. Like people work years to kind of get that kind of body physique. But it's also not a very useful kind of muscular feature, believe it or not. Really, because Armstrong is more about the idea of art. Plus, he's an alchemist, so he's able to utilize it a little better than what a normal person would. So there's magic involved in that. But then we look at his name is Sid, right? I believe Sid Curtis.
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen Full Metal Alchemist.
It's something like that. But he's also a very muscular man, but he's also a very robust man. He has a really large stomach. But it can be argued that his kind of physique is actually the more realistic kind of physique that you would see on a very strong and bulky man in reality. Because Sid, he's not an alchemist. He does rely on pure physical strength for what he does. So because of that, it's said for what he does, his physique makes a lot more sense. Because not only is he a very strong man who goes out and hunts and chops lumber and such, he's also he's also a butcher. So he eats a lot of meat. So a character in his stance would also make sense. But in general, that also would make more sense. Pardon me if I'm completely confusing these things here, but I kind of argue that would make more sense for a peak physical condition, real life human being, because people seem to forget that humans need to exercise in order to have good muscle structure, but they also need to eat. That's also important.
Oh, yes.
It's like, now that you bring up, the body types and everything, with the muscles and stuff, it's like, again, okay, let's talk about JoJo very briefly. So, if you watch the anime or read the mangas and everything, you'll know, the first, 4 parts, technically more so the first 3, but you see a fair amount of this in the 4th part as well, where your main characters, they are these muscle giants and everything, and it's for part 1 and part 2 it made sense, because if you look at the superpowers and everything they had, this is when they had their Hamon energy, which is magical sunshine karate. They're still doing fist fighting, so it makes sense why they would have all this muscle mass added to them and everything, because that's what they're doing. But once Stardust Crusaders comes around and introduces the stands, which is, for you, BJ, that's their personas, it's you kind of notice that's it starts out more so in part 4, but it really cements itself in part 5, where it's there is barely any, if any, muscle men whatsoever in JoJo anymore. Because as soon as you bring in personas that are doing the bulk of the fighting, and you're not doing physical hand-to-hand combat and everything, it's you don't need to be this muscle-bound warrior or anything. You can have, you can be in part 5, you're pretty much your entire cast of characters, they're all these, thin, lanky, elegant-looking men. But they do the bulk of their fights with stands, which totally makes sense. Yeah. How does it you go from, big muscles and manly men from the early parts to the complete opposite extreme later on? But, considering what happens, it actually makes sense.
Yeah. And I always appreciate that when cartoons or video games do something like that, where, their physique actually does match, what their what they're currently doing.
Right.
I had a point in my head. It always becomes more complicated when superpowers or magic becomes involved. But I would argue that for the most part, that really for certain cases, I feel certain powers actually should affect what your physique should be. I've always kind of imagined wizards or psychics, possibly maybe being a little chubbier, because they don't have, they use their minds for everything. Either a little chubbier or a little scrawnier. Either way, because they really don't need to use their body for that much. So they don't need to exercise, because they can rely on magic or they can rely on their mind or whatever. So they have no need to exercise. So because of that, depending on their dietary habits, they can either be much scrawnier or much chubbier. Ow.
Yeah, Danny, going back to the whole, when it comes to certain JoJo characters, you don't necessarily need, a completely muscular body in order to possess a stand or whatever. Yeah, you know what? I can contest to that, especially considering that, I don't know if you remember this on the top of your head, Danny, but they're, you brought up how it's, a lot of the stand users have a really huge muscular butt or whatever. No! Can't do it.
The water didn't save him there.
So, that was a death I forgot to edit out.
Oh, you're good. Anyway, it's I know there was one stand user. It was one of Dio's henchmen. He was the person who controlled the stand called a Wheel of Fortune. Now it's and yeah, it's when we first saw this stand user in particular, it's like when he stuck his arm out, like from the car window or whatever. Yeah, he had completely muscular arms and whatnot, giving you the impression that, oh, okay, this is another JoJo character in general with a very muscular body. But no, it's like, no, we find out that while his arms, and I can only imagine his legs, like, yeah, they're relatively fit, he has a huge ass belly.
Yeah. You know, I actually completely forgot about that guy.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that guy. But I mean, it's like, you know, but it's like, again, it's like...
So... Sorry. Anyway, continue.
But it's like, yeah, like, but yeah, like, again, like, take, like, Stardust Crusaders again. It's like, you know, take a look at a character like Polnareff. It's like, Polnareff, out of the entire cast of characters, like, of the good guys, he's, like, the most, like, muscle-bound out of all of them. But when you look at his stand, and his stand is, you know, like, it's a fencer. It's a fucking sword wielder.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, Polnareff, why do you have muscles upon muscles on your body? When, you know, look at their stand, like, you don't get into physical fights or anything. And, you know, I can understand Jotaro having muscles to him, because not only does he fight with his stand, you actually do see him throw punches and kicks and stuff in his combat, so he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. You don't really see that all often with, like, you know, Kakyoin or Polnareff or Avdol, and yet they still have, like, muscle to them, and it's like, you know,
I guess that kind of just goes back to what I was saying before. With, you know, it all depends on the character's lifestyle. Like I know I said, you know, just prior, how I can always imagine a psychic or a magician, you know, being either skinnier or chubbier, but that really does depend on, you know, what they choose to be their lifestyle, because everyone has a different lifestyle, and you know, so long, you know, and you know, so long, you know, like it's like, even if you are any of those things, if you still enjoy exercising, if you still enjoy just being physically fit, you know, doesn't matter what powers you have or whatever, you know, that's just the lifestyle you choose, so your body's going to reflect that.
Well, yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, yeah, but it's like, in the case of, like, Stardust Crusaders, it's pretty much, you know, the manliest road trip in the universe. I mean, that's pretty much what this is. It's just, you know... I mean, it's like, again, like, another character, Kakyoin. It's like, yeah, Kakyoin is a fucking gamer. That's actually confirmed way later on.
Yes.
Dude is a gamer. He sits and plays Nintendo for hours. And it's like... And yet, he's still got the muscles and everything, just like Jotaro. It's like, god damn, really?
Well, maybe he just really gets into Wii Fit.
Kakui, remember to stretch those shoulders.
It's like, yeah, Wii Fit in 1987. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, who knows? Maybe he just enjoys. He actually enjoys exercising on the side. Like that's just kind of what I imagine. Because otherwise, if they make a muscular character that does nothing but play video games, that's just dumb. That's a dumb character design.
Like, I call bullshit. Okay, yeah. It's like, all right. Listen here, anime. If you could stay thin while just playing video games all day, then why am I not that thin? All right, why do I still have this belly?
I feel gypped.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my Kakyoin and everything. He was my favorite character in Stardust Crusaders, but it's like, what we know of the character totally does not fit his body type. It really doesn't. No. But, you know, that's Stardust Crusaders for you. Like I said, it's the manliest road trip in the universe. That's pretty much the best way I can describe Stardust Crusaders.
God, you know what? God. It's in a way, it's kind of a shame that Polnareff isn't relatively like a France from Italia. Otherwise, I would have come up with a really good reason why Polnareff is probably the most buff out of all of them.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that one.
That's just a balance workout!
It's like, yeah, no.
No. Polnareff's not like that, no. Granted, he's a ladies' man, but not to that extent.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like I said, when you get to part 5, it's like you get like this, like, it's like you go from one extreme to the other. So it's like, you know, It's like, you go through all this series and you're so used to seeing, like, you know, these, like, buff, manly men. Then you get to part 5 and it's the complete opposite extreme. It's like, oh my god. It's awesome. These characters are still awesome and everything, but it's still kind of jarring. That's like, we went from one extreme to the other.
Although I will give credit to where credit is due. That one character in part 5, Narancia? I think that's how you pronounce his name. Pretty damn buff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty damn buff. I will give him that.
Yeah. But it's like, well, then again, it's like, you look at, like, part 4, and it's like, part 4, I think, has got, like, the most diverse body types, because it's like, okay, your main lead has some muscle to him, but then it's like, one of his best friends is Yugi Moto.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, no, I'm serious, BJ. There is a character that is like, he's like a fucking midget. He's like so tiny. And it's like, he's supposed to be the same grade and everything as Josuke, but he's like, he goes up to the guy's hips. It's like, this little guy is so tiny. And he's like one of the coolest characters in the goddamn show too, so it's like, you know. Actually, I think it's not even just him. I swear half the population in part 4 is the same body type as this kid. There's a lot of short people in part 4.
Oh.
But like, are they normal people, or do they also fight?
No, these are normal people.
Okay.
No, it's like, you know, these are normal people and they are tiny
God.
as fuck.
Okay, 'cause you know what? You say that, and I was totally reminded of what was his name? What was the name of the anime? God damn it! My host club, my school host club.
Run High School Host Club.
Thank you. The second year, but he was the really short looking kid.
Yes, Honey Senpai.
Honey, that's right. Thank you. This
God,
little kid,
Senpai.
but he could fucking kick ass.
Yeah, he was like a karate master.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's 4. And he walks around, and he eats cake, and he has a teddy bear, and he takes naps. It's like, that's like his whole character shtick. He's supposed to be like, you know, there's like, he's he's just rolling in sugary cuteness.
See,
but it's like, he's also a karate master.
That's a body type that also doesn't make sense to an extent, but it's also mostly played for laughs, the thing. So like,
yeah, it's like I think you can forgive like something like that where it's played for comedy.
Though even to an extent, it's like he may look really scrawny, but like considering I think the type of fighting he does do, he is very agile. Like, I feel like he probably shouldn't be hitting as hard as he really does, but for the most part, you know, I think his form of fighting does kind of reflect on his body size at the very least. Though, yeah, that said, I feel like he should not be hitting as hard as he does.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Right.
And again, I guess that kind of goes back to, like, he does only really behave that way when he's in the host club. Like, God only knows what he does when he's at home.
No, actually, I think, like, he still does that at home, too. Because if you remember, there was the episode with Honey's brother. And there was a whole thing, like, he went into this whole story about how, you know, in the middle of the night, he found Honey just, like, he's, like, in the kitchen or something. Like, he's in the dining room, and he's just swallowing cakes.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and, you know, that's like, you know, and his brother was just like, you know, he's not human, because that's what he's doing. He's eating cake and being cute and everything, and it's like, that he still does that at home.
You know, honey could just have a kick-ass metabolism.
Yeah, it's like, we should all be so fucking lucky.
Yes.
It's like, diabetes? What's that?
Yeah, you know what? You say that, but yeah, I'm kind of in that category. It's like, God, granted, I have a relatively high metabolism, but it's like, God damn it, I should know better.
Oh God, you know what? Speaking of weird bodies, okay, I just now finally noticed this game has ragdoll physics.
Yes, ragdoll physics return.
I saw you nail that guy in the head, and his body kind of just droops down like.
Oh man, God! Suddenly I'm getting some Halo Combat Evolved flashbacks.
Well, that was like, what was it in the, like, was it earlier in this part or was it in the last part where it was like I headshotted a guy off a waterfall and it looked like he just dived right in?
Yeah, like,
Yes.
oh!
There's a,
Like, that was weird how that looked. Like, you shot the guy, but it looked like he jumped forward.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it
the
looked like
complete
he
opposite of the way
literally,
his body should have gone.
yeah.
You'll never
And that-
take me alive.
Well, no, here's the weirdest thing, too. His body actually went down for a second and then jumped. It looked like he actually jumped, is the thing. Like, that's the weirdest part.
Wow.
It's like, oh no, I gotta pull it out of my head. I don't want to live anymore.
I've been shot in the head. I no longer have a reason to live.
My modeling career is ruined. I'll never be the forehead model that I once was. Is that a thing? Forehead modeling?
Sure, why not?
I feel like it probably is.
Yeah, why not? Like, only in Uncharted.
Only in Uncharted. Ow! My leg!
So-
My other leg!
Okay, you know what's good? You know, this is a really random kind of just. Oh my god, that caught me off guard so badly. That was funny.
Okay, now that was also a really good example of rat dog physics right there.
You know what? I'm convinced that's what happened to the other guy on the waterfall. Was there just a random exploding barrel behind him? And he just. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, Nathan shot through his head, and the bullets still graze an exploding bullet.
That's probably what actually.
I mean,
happened.
an exploding barrel. Fuck.
Oh god, what was I about to say? Something about foreheads. Fuck. Okay, yeah, here we go.
Forehead modeling?
No. I don't know what it is. This might just be me being a little bit shallow, but like, I don't know, like this. Where am I going with this? I feel like when it comes to certain characters, like if you start a character off with having bangs, but then later on suddenly their bangs are gone and they just have and they have a completely exposed forehead. Am I the only one? Am I the only one that finds that a little weird, or is that just me?
What?
I think the first example I can think of is Chi-Chi from Dragon Ball. Because, you know, from Dragon Ball to all the way to, like, you know, up to the end of the Cell Saga, she has bangs that cover, like, all the way, like, to her eyebrows. But then after that, you know, once the Buu Saga hits, she gets rid of the bangs, and we see her fully exposed forehead. And, I don't know, it may just be me, but I always find it a little weird after that.
I think if anything, it's just, you know, you're so used to one design for so long, and then it's like to see something so different. It's like,
but no,
yeah, it kind of throws you off.
That's the thing, though. That's why I admit it might just be me being a little bit shallow. But it's like because I've seen cases where they started off with with no bangs, but then they added bangs, and I thought they looked better. So that might just be me.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Maybe I just like bangs.
Bang fetish.
I don't think it's a fetish.
Wait.
I mean,
Wait.
It's honestly, Danny. It's kind of hard for a demisexual to have a fetish.
Wait. You say that you guys say that, and it's like, oh god, I don't know if you remember this. This was like, oh god, I was like a few years ago. Like, back in the early days of SpiffyNeedleGeeks, and around the time when the Super Smash Bros. Website was still updating characters, I remember we were trying to record a video, and BJ, you were just like, okay, can we mulligan? Wait, why? I'm sorry, I was talking, but I got distracted by Mart's gorgeous locks.
Okay, that was actually a funny little gag that I was like. Sorry, I was kind of just watching that little gag. It's like Nathan trying to speak their language, and then he thought it worked at first, but no, he actually just did it so badly that they found out it was him.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna have to do like what I did with Grim Fandango and like maybe provide some subtitles because yeah, you know, because I believe that language that he was speaking was Indonesian, but you know, yeah, they don't bother translating it out and. there is a character that we'll actually be meeting, I think, the next... I don't think the next video, but maybe, like, the one after that, where it's, like, he speaks a lot of Indonesian. Like, he'll just, like, he will blurt things out in Indonesian, and it's like, well, it would be nice to know what the fuck you're talking about.
Fucking Gatling gun, hell yeah. Just leave that around for the guy. It must be like the biggest kick in the teeth for like one of your biggest weapons to be used against you.
Yes.
Yeah, really.
It's like, we have this awesome Gatling gun that'll mow down anybody in seconds. Fuck, our enemy got it!
You know what? I feel the exact same way. Like, whenever it's like, while I'm playing Halo 3, I run into an enemy turret, and it's like, instead of just sitting there mounting the turret, I could just tear that turret apart, carry it with me, and start mowing aliens down.
Also, goddamn, did any of those bullets hit you? It looked like they all whizzed past you.
Now, some of them hit me, but it is another Gatling gun ahead, so that's where it's like, oh, better get the hell out before
Fuck! Dance!
God damn it!
Now I just imagine Barrett in that one scene where Scarlett's just shooting at his feet. He's just dancing.
Ow!
My dick.
God. God.
It's like, yes, give me my health back, thank you.
Ugh.
It's like, yeah, reload on my grenades.
Huh, Nolan North. Fuck, Nolan North voicing a regenerating degenerate, and this other guy, who also regenerates. I guess.
I'm convinced that none of the bullets are actually hitting Nathan Drake. He's just being very dramatic. I mean, that explains why he's still able to move around after taking so many fucking bullets this whole time.
Yes.
None of them actually hitting him. He's just like, oh! They got me.
Oh, I am dead.
I am the dead.
I'm dead.
Yeah, but with that said, join us next time and we will continue on with this weird little fortressy area. It's like, it's the best I can describe it, because it's like, we were up above ground and now we're going into water.